Beginning, the Wheel of Judgment. The executioner's wheel had not been broken in 800 cycles. It stood in the center of Caerthal Prime's Grand Tribunal Plaza, a towering construct of blackened alloy and pulsating crimson conduits. The wheel was not merely a device. It was spectacle. It was warning. It was law. And today it was hungry. Crowds of Caerthal citizens gathered beneath the twin suns, their elongated shadows stretching across the white stone plaza. They whispered in harmonic tones as armored enforcers formed concentric rings around the platform. At the center of the wheel, chained by gravitic restraints, stood the condemned. Her name was Velis of the Northern Reaches. She had once been a strategist of renown, a tactician who had defended outer colonies against pirate incursions. But she had committed a crime the Dominion could not tolerate. She had spoken against the Council. Worse, she had spoken for mercy. Now she stood bound, silver skin streaked with dried blood, luminous eyes defiant despite the heavy suppressor collar around her throat. The collar dampened her species' psionic resonance, a humiliation almost worse than death. Above her, the wheel's segments began to rotate slowly, metal teeth grinding with ceremonial inevitability. From the balcony of the tribunal tower, High Executor Zyron raised his staff. Velis of Caerthal. His voice boomed across amplifiers. You stand convicted of sedition, ideological contamination, and advocacy for alien alliance. A murmur rippled through the crowd at the last phrase. Alien alliance. The word tasted like poison in their mouths. Zyron continued. You will now be unmade. The wheel's crimson conduits brightened. And then, a sonic boom cracked across the sky. The arrival. Every head turned upward. A single dropship pierced through cloud cover, engines screaming as it descended far too fast for safety. It bore no Dominion insignia. Its hull was scarred, burned, battle-worn. The craft slammed into the plaza's outer ring, skidding across stone and scattering enforcers like fallen leaves. Dust and debris filled the air. For a heartbeat, silence. Then the side hatch blew outward, and a human stepped into the light. He was tall by Caerthal standards, broad-shouldered, clad in matte black combat armor marked with faded Terran insignias. A kinetic blade hung at his side. A plasma rifle rested across his back. His helmet retracted with a hiss, revealing cold gray eyes. Captain Ronan Vale of the Terran Vanguard. He looked at the wheel, then at the chained woman, then at the executor. I'm here for her. Shockenlaw. The crowd recoiled. Human. On Caerthal Prime. Inside the tribunal plaza, Zyron's crest flared crimson with outrage. You violate sovereign space, human. Ronan began walking forward. You're executing a political dissident, he replied calmly. Under Interstellar Treaty Article 7b, Allied observers are permitted intervention in cases of unlawful capital punishment. There is no alliance, Zyron spat. Not yet, Ronan said. But she tried to make one. Velis stared at him in stunned disbelief. You, she whispered hoarsely. You received the transmission. Ronan glanced at her briefly. You said your people deserved better. He stopped at the base of the platform. And I agreed. Zyron slammed his staff into the balcony floor. Enforcers. Remove this infestation. Dozens of armored soldiers surged forward. Ronan drew his blade. Middle. One warrior against an empire. The first enforcer swung a shock lance. Ronan sidestepped and drove his blade upward through the soldier's armor seam. He twisted, using the falling body as cover as plasma bolts lit the air. The plaza erupted into chaos. Ronan moved with brutal precision. Human muscles enhanced by combat augments, reflexes sharpened by years of frontier war. A gravitic net launched toward him. He triggered a pulse charge at his belt. The net shorted midair. He rolled, came up firing, disabling weapons instead of killing where possible. Velis watched through widening eyes. He wasn't fighting like a conqueror. He was fighting like a protector. "Seal the wheel," Zyron commanded. The execution device began accelerating. Crimson energy arced toward Velis' restraints. Ronan saw it and ran. Blaster fire tore into his armor. One shot burned through his shoulder plating. He didn't slow. He vaulted onto the platform. An enforcer captain blocked his path. "Human barbarian," the captain hissed. Ronan answered with a headbutt that shattered the alien's facial crest. He reached the base of the wheel as its segments began aligning for activation. 30 seconds. Velis gasped. Once it locks. Ronan slammed a breaching charge into the wheel's primary conduit. Then it won't lock. He shielded Velis with his body. The charge detonated. The wheel screamed. Metal fractured. Energy feedback exploded outward in a blinding shockwave. When the light faded, the executioner's wheel, symbol of 800 cycles of unquestioned authority, lay split down the center, shattered. The silence after breaking. No one moved. The plaza, once roaring with judgment, now stood in stunned silence. The wheel was broken. Impossible. Zyron's voice trembled. You dare." Ronan rose slowly, smoke curling from his armor. "Yes," he said. He turned and deactivated Velis' restraints. She stumbled forward, catching herself against him. "You just declared war," she murmured. Ronan looked out at the citizens. Not the soldiers, not the council, but the people. They declared it the moment they chained you. Escape under fire. Shock gave way to fury. Defense cannons rotated toward the platform. Ronan grabbed Velis. "Can you move?" "Yes." "Good." His dropship engines reignited remotely. They sprinted through falling debris as plasma fire rained down. Ronan provided cover while Velis, despite the suppressor collar, began projecting faint psionic distortions to scramble targeting systems. "You're weakened," he said. "I'm alive," she replied. They leapt into the dropship as explosions tore through the plaza. The hatch sealed. The ship blasted skyward under heavy fire. Missiles pursued. Velis braced herself and pushed past the suppressor's limits, unleashing a focused psionic surge that bent one missile's trajectory into another. They detonated in a blossom of flame. Ronan grinned faintly. "Not bad." She looked at him. "You came alone." "Yeah." "Why?" He met her gaze. "Because someone had to. The greater conflict." They didn't outrun the Dominion fleet. By the time they reached orbit, warships had formed a blockade. Zyron's face filled their comms display. "Return the traitor," he demanded, "and you may leave with your life." Ronan muted the channel. Velis watched him. "You cannot defeat a fleet." "No," he agreed. "But I don't need to." He transmitted a wideband signal. To every civilian frequency on Caerthal Prime. To outer colonies. To trade relays. It was footage. Of the wheel breaking. Of enforcers firing into crowds. Of Zyron ordering execution without full tribunal vote. Truth. Raw and undeniable. Within minutes, civilian ships began broadcasting the footage further. Protests ignited across planetary districts. Colony governors demanded explanation. Dominion captains hesitated. Zyron's authority began to fracture. Valus stared at the feed in awe. You didn't come just to save me. Ronan shook his head. I came to break the symbol. Climax. The stand in orbit. But Xiron would not yield. His flagship advanced. If I fall, he snarled over comms, I will take the human with me. The warship's spinal cannon charged. Ronan's dropship was no match. Valus stepped forward. Lower my collar. It's unstable, Ronan warned. I know. He hesitated only a second before disabling it. Power flooded back into her. Her eyes blazed with radiant light. The flagship fired. Valus reached outward with everything she had. She didn't stop the blast. She bent it. The beam curved, slamming into the tribunal tower below, destroying the balcony from which Xiron had ruled. The flagship's weapon system overloaded. Ronan seized the moment, launching his last torpedo into the damaged emitter array. The flagship went dark. Fleet commanders, seeing their leader fall and public outrage spreading, powered down weapons one by one. The blockade dissolved. And what was broken, what was built? Weeks later, Caerthal Prime looked different. The plaza had been cleared. The broken halves of the executioner's wheel remained. Not repaired, not removed. Left as reminder. Valus stood before a provisional council. No longer chained, no longer silenced. Ronan stood at the edge of the chamber, arms folded. You could stay, she told him afterward. He shook his head. This was your revolution. You began it. No, he said gently. You did. When you chose mercy. She stepped closer. My people once believed humans were primitive. Violent. Ronan smirked faintly. We can be. But you shattered our greatest symbol. Not to conquer us. To free us. He looked at the broken wheel visible through the chamber window. Sometimes, he said, the only way to stop an execution is to break the machine. Valus extended her hand. Then let this be the first day of alliance. He clasped it. Human and Caerthal. Warrior and dissident. Not ruler and subject. Cool. As Ronan's dropship later ascended peacefully into open sky, citizens gathered in the plaza below, not in fear but in reflection. The wheel had ruled them for 800 cycles. It took one human warrior a single day to shatter it. But it took the courage of one alien woman to make that day possible. And across the stars a message spread. Humanity does not kneel to injustice. Humanity breaks it.